Hey there, I am so glad you're here. Come on in and enjoy Coffee Chat at the Cubbyhole. Okay, you might be thinking, coffee sounds fun, but girl, what is the Cubbyhole? The Cubbyhole was a divine little nudge on my heart, if you will, to build the space in our basement, in our home, where our friends and family could come and receive encouragement and love. And that's exactly what we've been doing. I've always known that the Cubbyhole would have a ripple effect out into the world, that it could bring encouragement and hope, not just to people that could visit here in person. That is exactly why I do Coffee Chats. I get to take some of the coolest people that are just like you and just like me, who have skill and talent, but most importantly, they have a vulnerable, relatable story that we can all glean some hope and encouragement from. So grab a coffee, cozy up, and enjoy Coffee Chats at the Cubbyhole. Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome to Coffee Chats at the Cubbyhole. Just like every week, I am so glad you're here. Okay, the question today is, do you feel like you need change in your life in some way or another? Maybe it's as a parent, maybe it's as a spouse, maybe it's in your spirituality, or the way maybe in the way you're worshiping, or the way you're being told you should worship. Who knows what it could be? What is it for you? The show is about you. Do you need change in your life? My guest, Teri Miller, and I today are going to be unpacking this topic because her journey has proof throughout the whole journey that she has lived, like we do, difficult seasons. But the beauty in her seasons is that it produced very valuable, very, very powerful fruit that she was able to use as a springboard to finding the joy and finding a way to have greater health and freedom in her life. I can't wait to brag on her a little bit because I love her so much. When you meet her, when she comes on, you will know why. I always say, when I picture if I had a co-host sitting right here next to me, she pops in my head all of the time. I would love to have this woman as a co-host. And guess what? Today, I am a lot closer to that because I get to welcome, come on in, girl. She's here with me. You guys, this is my friend, Teri Miller.
Live in the Cubbyhole.
You're like really a co-host. You're my guest. I'm just going to pretend like you're my co-host today.
I love it. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, I love having you here. So I was saying last night, when I was doing the promo for today, that this woman, you're my go-to. Like, you have your go-to tribe, your girlfriends, and you are just so filled with wisdom that's why you're my go-to for truth and when I need it in my life. So,
well, thanks.
Yeah,
that's an honor.
Oh yeah. So, I want to jump in with your story today. Okay. I want to jump in. So how do I describe you? Teri and I last week were talking about titles. I mean, we don't have to rely on our titles, but if I'm bragging on you a little bit, you have you have led worship in your church. You've led life groups. You are a coach, which is so powerful. You help so many people. You're a mama. You're a wife, and you do a lot of things. But it's like I was talking about, it's the seasons that you've lived through in your life that has proved to be been the jumping off point.
Well, and it helps when you have lived a long time.
Yeah, that's true. That's like, we're not like old or
no,
anything.
We're not old, but
we're experienced.
Got a lot of stories.
That's right. Well, you and I just wanted to step back a second and say how we met. I talk a lot about Barn 45 on this show because Tara and Joy, there are precious friends that we love so much. Barn 45 is right up the road. We met there. And then we really got to know each other in a codependency workshop that you facilitated, which was, life-changing for me and for so many.
And for me.
Yeah. And the reason you were so good at facilitating that is because you've lived it.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you jump in wherever you want, in all 30 some years of your life.
30, yeah.
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 You've
I
had
like
some
that.
stuff. You've had some stuff. So why don't you jump in wherever you feel, is a good place to start, and just talk about like where you knew. I think the best place to start is, how did you know you needed change in your life?
Yes. Well, I went through a difficult season. Gosh, I guess it's been about 10 years ago now. And I would say, I've been through infertility. I've been through, just some hard things in life. But this season for me was the hardest, I would say, season of my life. And what I didn't know then is the beauty of pain and the beauty of a difficult season, because what it did was prompted me, even, as a lover of God, a lover of Jesus, a servant of Jesus, and we can talk about that a little bit more, as a person who was, striving to please God and loved God. I feel like God used this season, allowed this season to happen for my good, because, a phrase that you and I have used is, he really got in there and just started to mess my hair up a little bit. And he's like, girl, you got your hair all fixed, but I appreciate what you're doing.
Right.
But I appreciate what you're doing.
Good.
And I love your heart, but let me just tell you, you're making it a little bit too hard. And
it's refreshing to hear.
You're focused a little bit too much on you. And so let me just lighten the load a little bit, and let me tweak your understanding of a lot of the concepts that you are living with. So I went through a journey of, just pursuing truth, because the situation was so painful. And I felt so bad about myself. And I was like, God, is that true? What is true? And so in asking God about all of these different things in my life, every area of my life that I would encounter, what is the truth? And he started telling me the truth.
If you ask for it.
If you ask for it. If you seek him, you will find him.
That's right.
And he's ready and willing and available to always, he's always speaking and always moving, and just waiting for us to, be listening. So.
I want to hold this up, because this is it's beautiful. I've always loved the color, or the cover of your book, and the color, Death of a Church Lady. This is something, you were talking about a difficult season. I believe that this is what you were talking about. You were referring to that this difficult season in your life, it's beautiful that you captured it in a book. And it's not that you, we talked about this the other day. It's not that this is your number one focus, but this was the capturing the fruit that remains from that difficult season.
Yes.
And all that you learned.
Yep.
But this is, so talk a little bit about this, just to kind of give a little bit of context to the season. And I would love to have you talk about the cover and the flower that's on there.
Sure.
How that came about.
Well, the title is Death of a Church Lady, and the subtitle is Confessions of Hurt, Healing, and Freedom. And so God had been changing my perspective on so many things that I just didn't. I figured if I was needing it, that other people would need it too. If I was experiencing it, other people were too. And so I thought, it was a great therapeutic way for me to not only get healing for myself as I wrote, because writing is such a healing tool.
Yeah.
And
the discovery that pops out too, that you
totally,
didn't even know.
Yes. And so it was, the writing journey was healing for me. And I was a different person when I finished the book than when I started the book. But it was just a great opportunity for me to be able to share what God had been sharing with me. And, I look back on it now, and even then, and it's very simple. It's not like a great revelation of these world-changing concepts. But for me, when we're like one or two clicks off, it doesn't seem like much, but 10 years down the road, you're here. And so I feel like, in God's grace and his mercy, he just wanted to tweak my understanding, and then has allowed me to begin to share that with other people, which is, the codependent workshop and some counseling that I'm doing now. And so I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely. More than answers it. How did it show up? How did the need for change show up in your life? You're a mom of 3 grown children. You've been married to Mike, AKA Mr. Wonderful, for over 30 years. I know it showed up, in the situations that you talk about in your book, but how else did it show up in your life?
Let me think how it showed up first. I think the first truth that God really used, to speak to my heart was the truth of, pleasing God versus trusting God.
Oh yeah, that's very relatable.
And I had those two things, so the question was presented to me, if you could choose only one, would you rather please God or trust God? And my quick answer was, for sure, I want to please him. Lord, let my life be pleasing to you. As a worshiper, that narrative is just so, everything in my heart is wanting to please the Lord. That is a godly desire. Jesus pleased the Father. I mean, so to say that we shouldn't be living to please God,
right,
that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But trusting God, which kind of gets to the little codependent thread. So trusting God was something, that would have come second for me. And when you live to please God, you are, all of the emphasis, all of the work and effort is on me. It's on you.
Right.
We need to please him. When you trust God, you are shifting the focus to him. And so it's on him. He's got to answer the prayer. He's got to intervene. He's got to be the one to share love. It's all about him. And it takes the pressure off of me. And when I am trusting God, I will please him. And so it becomes a fruit of that lifestyle of trust. And, that was for me the first little tweak. I was like, oh, okay. What else? What else am I just a little click off? And
see, that's why I love wisdom. I love your wisdom. I love wisdom because I always say that in our lives, when we feel overwhelmed or whatever the word is that we're feeling, we're just so laser focused in, we're so close up. And when we can pull back and breathe, as I always say, you can see things as the landscape and you can see the landscape of your life the way that God wants us to see it. And it's that sort of wisdom, that little tweak of the 2 words. Are you pleasing God or trusting God? And so let's go to the end of that phrase with the trusting God for people like me and maybe like you and a lot of people watching that have trust issues. Did you experience that through your journey? And what did you do? What did you do then?
Yeah.
We're addicted to codependency sometimes.
That makes me think of a situation. So let me just make one little comment, because for me in my life, I was taught from church that you only need Jesus. We just need, Jesus is enough.
Right.
And you shouldn't be going to counseling. You shouldn't need to talk to a counselor. You girls shouldn't be needing to get together for lunch and talk, because you just need Jesus.
Right.
And so that was, kind of drilled into my head for 20 something years. And so when I did need my girlfriends to help me, what am I not seeing here? What do I got? What do I have in my teeth? I can't see what I got in my teeth, but you can see what I got in my teeth. And so I felt bad for a long time because I knew I needed people.
Yeah.
And I knew that
now you're carrying guilt.
And I knew that God used people. And so I just say that to say that I know that is a shift that's happening in the church that makes me very happy.
Yes. I feel that. I see it and I love it.
Yeah.
I agree.
And so kind of to get to the trusting thing, God took me I went to kind of a Kairos event, which a freedom ministry, I don't even know how I got there, but I ended up there with people that were being trained as trainers. And I wasn't being trained as a trainer, but I was there absorbing all this great information. God put me there. It was pretty cool. And in one of the moments, the question was presented, and you're prayerfully, it's kind of a listening exercise for God. And the question was presented, when you picture, so there's Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And when you picture the Father, what do you picture? And so, okay, I close my eyes and I picture, and I'm just sharing, it's kind of vulnerable, but I'm sharing.
I'm guessing what I think I know what might be what you would say, but.
And God, I know scriptures that talk about God, and he is seated on his throne, and he is high and lifted up. And I've heard people pray, I have friends that pray Papa, or Abba. And I'm like, I don't even know. I love God. And I know God loves me and he's good. That was I know he loves me and he's good. But he's way up these marble stairs on this throne way up there. And I got Jesus. So I'm good with Jesus. And what God did for me in that moment. And then he said, okay, they talked to us about how we can connect your earthly father, that relationship. And a lot of times we put that on God. And when I thought about that and I looked at that, my dad at that moment had just passed away about a month ago. It was fresh. And it was just this fresh, tender revelation that my sister happened to be at the training with me, which I was very thankful of.
Yeah.
And I said to her,
she was there to kind of maybe catch you when the truth.
Yeah. And I said, you know what? I know my dad was a good dad. And I know he loved me.
Right.
The exact words that I used with Father God. But my dad was not able to have intimate heart-to-heart conversations. He could not go and what I've learned is that, you can't give what you don't have, and nobody ever taught him.
Yeah.
So it's not valuable truth. It's not to cast blame on your parents.
No.
Because they did the best they could with what they have, but to be able to get honest and to realize that, I didn't have a safe heart-to-heart place with my dad, with my father. And so for me to pray, we're taught in the Bible to pray to the Father. In Jesus' name. We get to the Father through Jesus. And so that truth for me, it brought the throne down the marble staircase.
Yeah.
And now he's present and I have access to the Father because of that simple interaction that somebody just said, let me just kind of connect this for you. Let's make an opportunity for God to connect it for you. And so that was another truth that has really altered and changed the way I pray, the way I think of the Father. It just brought him here.
Yes.
And I can have love and relationship and intimacy with the Father like I never have before. So I think I kind of answered your question.
I love it. That's so relatable. I think if there's a couple of consistent little messages I want, or not that even that I want, they just happen on this show. That is one of them, is that that relationship. It can be a relationship. It's that concept of religion versus relationship. It comes up all of the time. People comment all the time that they receive from my guests the story and the chain breaking truth that what? Oh, Could be whole coffee chat.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just
it.
like, I love your coffee cup.
That was my Christmas present from my kids. I love it. But there's two. But, teenagers walk off.
It's in somebody's car.
It's somewhere. It's probably at somebody else's house is what it is. But I usually have my chains sitting right here. I should just keep my chains right here because on this show, there's so many times I can hold up these big, heavy chains where that's a truth that sets us free, is that we can have a relationship with Jesus and it doesn't always have to be about that intimidation. Like you said, the stairs and he feels so far away. It just feels like that warm, cozy blanket feeling. So now you just mentioned your dad, and that's when I really got to know you and you got to know all of us in that codependency workshop. which I highly recommend the study of codependency.
Mhm.
And you are going to possibly be having some workshops coming up. So I'll be promoting that if you put that out. But it's so true that codependency shows up in our life. How did it show up then in your life as a mom, as a wife, as a friend?
Yes. So my kids had all left the nest. I had 2 in college and 1 in Australia. And I was, my kids weren't doing great. So
thanks for saying thank you for saying
my
that.
kids weren't doing great.
When we met this week to talk about it today, I'm like, what do you not want to say? And you're like, anything. You're an open book, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that truth, because we can all relate with that. Our kids will be able to relate with that when they're parents. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had 1 at Central, and he was not doing well at Central. And I had 1 at ORU, and she was doing great academically. But she had college is hard.
Yeah. And,
it's harder for some than others. And she was struggling in this season. And then I had another daughter in Australia who was, it's just hard to live in Sydney.
Right.
It's expensive. And she was going to Hillsong College, and that had some dynamics to it, and so far away, and you cannot help.
Mm-hmm.
Something happens, she did break her toe. It's like, you got to get crutches with a broken toe and nobody there to help you.
Right. Yeah. That's hard. As a mama. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just hard because she was so far away. So that season was, I couldn't sleep. I was up in the middle of the night praying, which, I'm not saying I don't pray for my kids now, but I didn't have peace. I struggled with peace because I had heard the phrase, and I loved this phrase, that you're only as happy as your most unhappy kid. Wait, you're only as happy as your least happy child. And I thought, yes, like if my child is struggling, I can only be that happy.
Well,
yeah. So that was kind of where I was at.
You knew that's where you were. Was that like, did you realize in that moment that was kind of a wake up call?
No,
you didn't know
that. I took pride in that. I thought, yes, I'm so connected to my kids and love my kids so much that.
And it was probably your identity too.
Yeah. My kids were a big part of my identity. And that was devastating for me, that I thought they would choose the path that I chose. In making a lot of choices for their life. I made certain choices. I thought that they would make those choices. I raised them. I gave them, a spiritual upbringing. And then they were like, yeah, no. And I'm like, I was like devastated by that. I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. Like, I didn't know you would do that. And so I was devastated. And so they felt my disappointment. And it was this kind of circle of things. So I ended up, 2 of my girls came home to live with me for a year, and we found ourselves in the same dynamic that we were in when they were 9th and 10th graders. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. We should be growing past this. We need to work through this. So we went to a little bit of counseling, and in the counseling, she's like, so tell me about you, Teri, because I could talk about the kids all day long. And I'm like, well, I really can't sleep. I'm up at night. She's like, we got a codependent workshop that's coming up in 2 weeks. It was just happened to be that timing. And I went to that workshop, and actually Joy Lee, our friend, from Barn 45, was the facilitator and leader of that. And that grouping of information that is put together by Stephanie Tucker out of California, called the Christian Codependency Recovery Workbook. And that grouping of information, because I didn't even know what codependency was.
It's right by my desk. This sits, I have 2 things, the Bible and this.
Oh boy.
And then I have you on speed dial because we talk through stuff, but no, this is it. This is so good. Yeah.
So I
have all my notes. It's all dog-eared. It's marked up. Yeah.
And when we think of codependency, we think of,
workshop?
Yep.
Workshop material.
Yes. We think of, classic, oh wow, what did I do with my hair? Speaking of messing your hair up. So
I am not going to be okay unless my hair is perfect. And that's
there we go.
We're talking about codependency.
This workbook deals with every area of our lives, our upbringing, how we give and receive love.
Yeah, it's a chain breaker.
Forgiveness, receiving forgiveness and giving forgiveness. Identity, surrender. Like all of the areas in our Christian walk that we navigate. Because we believe some truth about some of it, and then there's a little, there's wounds that have happened in our life. People have said something to us, done something to us, and it changes our narrative, changes what we feel about ourselves. And each one of these chapters will dig into those areas and allow God to reveal truth. That's not who you are. This is who you are. That's not, you can think that way, but that's not the way I think about you. So let's think about that in a healthier way. And so that's what I love about that material. And, there's a lot of other material that, has influenced to get me where I'm at now.
It's a couple things here. First of all, Connie was asking what's the name of the book, and I'll put a link. You can find this in Amazon. It's the Christian Codependence Recovery book. You can find this and your book, right? On Amazon?
Yes, my book, I'm out of them.
Oh, girl. Girl.
I know. I need to print some more. So I'm trying to figure out how many to print, and because I'm writing another book. So do I put the money into that book? But
can't wait to talk about that.
But I do want to have some of the Death of a Church Lady. So I'm going to have to order more.
And I know that I'm going back now, but I know you don't focus on that as much anymore. It's a great book. I've read it. I love it. Period. I know you don't focus on it as much anymore because you don't want to stay in that season, but I love that it was a diving board into further truths that you needed to see. And that's what I wanted to say too about the beautiful ripple effects in our life.
Oh, yeah.
You look at just your own life. You have the way you were before the concepts of Death of a Church Lady. Then you had the experiences that are the stories of the Death of a Church Lady book. And then that was a springboard to the awareness on the sleepless nights of your kids. And then going to the the person recommending it, and then Joy being there. And that's how you met Joy, right? And all those ripple effects. But I love the beautiful ripple effects of just the healing in your life because of it. And that now there's a ripple effect that you're here. You're doing your workshops. Now you're here talking about this. And it's opening minds. It's a ripple effect of goodness. And that's what we were saying in the beginning is the fruit from all of these seasons. If we can trust the concept that there's good fruit in every season, it remains and it carries on in a beautiful ripple effect of his goodness. That's the only way I can see it.
Yes.
I just wanted to read some of these.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Just
do.
Because I love the concept of the ripple effect. I have experienced it in my in my life and in my family, and with people that I'm working with.
Yeah,
I can when they sit down the first time with me, I can say with 100% confidence, you pursue healing yourself, there will be a ripple effect.
Yes.
You're struggling with a teenager, you go to God, you get healed.
Yes.
Let him deal with you. And there will be a ripple effect to the teenager. You're struggling in your marriage and your husband, is la da 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 da. And you wish you wouldn't do that. And you wish you wouldn't do that. And you're struggling and you're lonely. And okay. Yep. Yes, I don't minimize those things. Those things are real in your life, but you pursue God. You allow God to speak truth to you. You allow him to tweak your perspective, tweak your language, tweak the way that you think about yourself. And it will be a ripple effect to your marriage.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, we know you can't control anybody but yourself.
Darn it. Messed my hair up.
But so I really love the ripple effect concept because and I have found, vulnerability. I love the teaching from Brene Brown about vulnerability and shame, and that stuff is so good. And when you can begin to not protect yourself and need to have an image, and you can start to get honest and you can start to get vulnerable, the people around you, you give them permission to do it too. And that's what that's what I love about, friends like you is we can put lipstick on. We got our lipstick on, but we can also talk about what's real.
Yes, that's right. The tears, the truth. Yeah.
I think that's really one of the charms of your ministry is your vulnerability. You're beautiful and accomplished, and yet you're very real and vulnerable. And I think that's what draws people in. So, if I could just give you that word.
Girl, come on. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your words. What I appreciate even more is feeling the journey to that. Holy moly, like everything that you're talking about, I wouldn't have been vulnerable. I know even in our marriage or a lot of situations, I couldn't say I was sorry because I felt that I'm sorry. What was attached to that is then you're always going to be labeled as wrong. And I had that, it's like a codependency of.
Or you'll be taken advantage of.
Probably even more so.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you just nailed it. Because if I say I'm sorry, then I had this whole set of truths that were, I'm sure I realized I was so thankful. I mean, we touched on codependency in my training. Every coaching training is different, but we kind of touched on it. But you really blew it wide open when I went to your workshop, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I did because I saw things that I didn't realize. And when you have your workshop, I do. I want to promote that like crazy. If you're in Michigan, are you going to do it virtually?
Yes. We actually just solidified yesterday that this summer at Barn 45, I'm going to be doing the codependent workshop on Monday mornings and Thursday evenings. So Monday mornings from 10 to 12, Thursday evenings from 6 to 8. I hope it's okay that I'm announcing that.
And I'm glad that you are announcing it because I mentioned it and I was like, I hope it's okay.
It's not set in stone yet.
Look what I just did.
But
that's something
people, we're going to get together. And I'm really excited about that. And then, but we also will do Zoom in those meetings because there's a lot of people from 45 that are all over the place. So they'll be able to jump into
that. I mean, again, this pandemic has had a silver lining with the technology and the realization that we can connect with people everywhere. I know what I was saying with the ripple effect was your story, you're leading to your book, leading to all the discoveries, and Joy. Joy Lee of Barn 45. If you guys don't know Barn 45, please go to Facebook and see their page, Barn 45. And they do a Bible study every morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. And Joy's life, almost literally, well, I know it was the power of Jesus, but the truth that Stephanie Tucker placed in her heart with this truth. And she worked with her one-on-one. She tells her story. She flew to California to work with her, and it was a game changer. And that ripple effect now, and now look what all that she's doing with Barn 45. But just some of these chapters are just emotional strongholds, our love systems. Holy moly, you were talking about your dad, our earthly father, our earthly parents, our the earthly people that we surround ourselves with, the love systems. And if they aren't anchored with a strong foundation, it's all gonna crumble. Control, breaking free from denial, exposing shame. Forgiveness, major, embracing authentic identities, healthy boundaries. Let's talk about that. But as we're talking about that, I want to put this up.
I'm so impressed you can see. I can't see.
I've got these glasses. Okay. I haven't moved to any sort of a bifocal. So I'm like, these glasses are on, they're off. Now I can't even see you. Who are you? Right now, I can't see the screen at all. I'm going to move closer so I don't put up somebody else's website. This is where you can find Teri Miller, TeriMillerMinistries.com.
Okay. That website needs some work, but thanks.
Oh, I love it. Oh, man, darn it. I meant to, I was going to put the picture in here to put that beautiful picture of you that's on the front page that I love so much.
Oh, thanks.
Anywho, what were we talking about?
I don't know. You were talking about the workshop and boundaries and but let me segue to this.
Boundaries. That was it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you want to use that little button?
Oh, I do. I put it here so you don't forget it. But when the time is right, you will show that.
Well, I'm going to show it now because part of
I want one.
Part of the people pleasing.
Yeah.
So if you're a people pleaser, you will have a hard time telling people no. And if you do tell somebody no, you're going to give a long explanation and feel like you have to justify it and go into great detail about why you can't do such and such, because you don't ever want anyone to not be happy with you. And we deal with that in the workshop and talk about why do we do that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was in Target and I found this button and
No, 1,000 times no.
I
No. No.
all you moms out there, put this on the kitchen counter.
It's my last word. No.
See?
I love it. I love it. My niece Brittany was like,
Oh.
I need that button.
no.
I do.
That's so
Are
funny.
they still there? They're at Target?
I don't know. I got it.
I'm running. I'm not walking to go get one.
I just thought it was funny.
And it's like in the, the power of a negotiation. They say you make what you say, and then the next person that talks loses. And it's like, it's so hard, especially as a parent, when you say no.
No.
And then-
No.
And then they
And then-
whine, and then
you
break down.
explain. I catch myself doing that.
Mhm.
And I oh my gosh, codependency shows up in so many ways, and it has really shown up in my life as a parent that I then feel like I have to people please, because people pleasing and codependency, they go hand in hand.
Mhm.
So I would say no, and then I would explain, and sometimes I catch myself in that trap of doing that.
Mhm. Well, one thing I learned from my mama,
Girl.
she is a wise mama. She's the least codependent person I've ever met.
And she owned it, I bet.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, she might be a little bit the other way, but she is not codependent. And when I had kids, I said to her, I think we get in a habit of saying no, and then we think
That is
then
true.
we think we'll come back.
That is
Because
true.
let's just say no, and then if we
Yeah.
want to give in a little bit later,
Yeah.
that way they're not going to take the whole, whatever it is they want, But I don't have the mental energy to figure it out now.
Mhm.
And my mom was like, either say, give me 10 minutes and I'll get back to you,
Mhm.
or get in a habit of saying yes.
Oh yeah.
Unless it's something,
Uh-huh.
can I jump off a bridge? No. But, can I go to Susie's? Well, or can I have a cookie? Is it really going to hurt?
I know.
We get in the habit of saying no, and then they whine, and then we think about it, and then we go, oh, okay, because I don't know why I said no. And she's like, don't be in a habit of saying yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because most of the things, you can put a qualifier on there. You can say yes, but you got to be home at 3, or yes, did you do your homework?
Yeah, there's always the yes.
Like
but.
yes, did you do your homework?
Yes, with conditions.
So you're positive.
Fair.
You're like, yeah, you can do that. Did you do your homework? I didn't do my homework yet. Oh, bummer for you.
Now they've made the decision, right? Yeah.
Right.
Another major, a very powerful discovery for me with codependency, I was just living my life like just shooting darts. I was just, guessing in the wind. I had no, I didn't have any bumpers or guardrails except for what I felt like I should do, except for how I put this on myself, how I needed to please God. I didn't have any guardrails. Mm-hmm. But what I found, a way that codependency majorly showed up in my life was that when I was not okay, if the other person wasn't okay,
right.
Like in an argument,
yeah.
If I spent years doing this. If I had a disagreement or a circumstance with somebody, if I didn't convince them that I was a good person, no, you don't say that about me. Don't. Oh, and I'm going to explain to you. I'm going to write an email. I'm going to explain that I am a good person,
right.
And you don't understand me. And God knows who we are. He knows our intentions. Do we pass the pillow test at the end of the day? Like I say to my kids, did you have good intention? Did you do it? Did you do it on purpose? To be okay in your truth and not have to. Always
your well-being isn't tied to somebody else.
Exactly. Yeah. And their validation or lack thereof of you.
Yes.
Did you find yourself doing that?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm, girl.
Yes, ma'am.
That's how we know. That's how we
I did that at church. I did that with my kids.
Gosh.
And the kind of the full circle moment for me is, had I not gone through this journey of, I call it healing and freedom, I was healed and set free in so many of my mindsets, had I not gone through that. And then I struggled with her putting down counselor because I'm a new counselor.
See, it happens every week. Unless it's like,
I'm a new counselor. And I would struggle if you wrote author. Because I wrote a book and I'm writing another book, but other people are authors. I wrote a book. So for you to call me author, I would be like, And for you to call me counselor, even though I went through 3 years of training and am, really loving that journey right now. For me, I have to overlook that. I have to change the way I'm thinking because I'm not a counselor like somebody who's got 30 years experience and a bachelor's and a bunch of initials after their name. That's not who I am. And so I have to battle that dialogue. Do I need to be that to be a counselor? No, I bring other things to people. I bring other experiences to people, and that has value.
Oh my gosh.
And not everybody is for everybody. So not everybody is going to be for me, and I'm not going to be for everybody. But the full circle moment is, so then all of my kids left my house, and I went through the 3 years of training, and my son kind of came and went, college, not college. And so right before COVID hit, I had finished my counseling training. So I had been on this 5 or 6 year journey of healing and freedom. And one by one, all of my kids, we just happened to buy a new house. That was, we went from our downsized I loved my little house. When
you guys put that up for sale, I was like, David, I love your new house too.
Yeah, it's a great empty nester house.
Yeah.
But we had too much going on for that house. And so we decided to look for something a little bit bigger. Well, we ended up finding this big house on a lake, and which was kind of a whole nother story in of itself, which was this great journey. But one by one, our kids, COVID hit, and, my son came home from college, and my middle daughter said, hey, when you finish that basement, can we move in there for a little while? Because I got college loans and we want to buy a bigger house. And I'm like, sure. So, and then COVID hit, and my oldest daughter got married then the first day of shutdown in California.
Yeah.
So we had a 1 day grace period where the church was like, you need to get in here. The 4 o'clock wedding was moved to 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was like, get in here. Let's get this done.
See, the cool thing was we got to watch it online. That was, again, silver lining. Yeah. That was crazy.
She decided on Monday to get married, and we were there and got married on Saturday.
Yeah.
But we didn't know what was happening. The world was shutting down. Yeah. It was so weird. So they ended up getting married, and I don't think they probably would have moved to Michigan had COVID not happened. But so now there's 9 of us.
Oh wait, can I sing the song?
Sure.
Back me up with some harmony here. Ready?
What's the song?
Da 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 da. I have a love date, really.
We should have named our dog John Boy.
I know.
We should have named the dog John Boy.
What are you thinking? You can take a night,
Charlie. We're changing the dog's name.
I love that you have referred to that. I think other people have referred to you guys as well. It's like you're all living together, and it's so beautiful. And it is.
Okay. It is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be beautiful if there hadn't been a ripple effect of all of us, and myself mainly.
Let me put your picture. I think people can still hear.
Yeah.
Look at that
because
beautiful
I can be
family.
Okay. You can't live with people and have great, healthy relationship if you can't be okay. Because if you're living with 9 people, at some point somebody's not okay. Somebody didn't get the job.
Yeah.
Somebody, there's just been a lot of life happening, and we've had the honor and the privilege of doing life together. I mean, there's been some heartache.
Yeah.
And there's been some celebrating. My oldest daughter gave birth to her baby in our home. And there's just been a lot of life in our house. And it's been just such a unique experience, but there's no way we could have done it in a great way without the journey that we've all kind of been on as, and a lot of my kids they were like, Mom, they got it. like they weren't necessarily, it's not like this ripple effect that I brought to the home and everybody's fixed because I got healed and free. No, they knew a lot of it and they were like, okay, finally she's getting some of this stuff.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So
you mean they had already learned it?
yeah. Like they weren't living. No, they for example,
they were picking it up in their life. Yeah,
for
their
example,
journey.
one of the
which is important to let our kids live their journey, you know, and not be codependent on whether, you know, we can take the credit for them learning it, because it doesn't show up like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't show up like that all the time.
Yeah. One of the illustrations that I like to use is regarding pleasing, you know, going from a servant of the Lord, well done, good and faithful servant. That's I want that to be. Are we out of time?
No, we're good.
I want that to be the cry of my heart. And yet my relationship with him is so much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a Abba Father. Jesus makes me holy. I mean, there's just so much we could talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am a saint because of what Jesus did and his spirit that lives in me. I'm no longer a sinner bound by sinful habits. God has set me free from that. That's who I am.
Yes.
Doesn't mean I don't ever sin, but and I don't want to get off on a whole nother thing there, but there's this identity. I can't remember where I was going with it.
Well, we were talking about boundaries in your kids, where your kids got that, like where that came from.
Yeah,
where it was rooted.
So my daughter, both of my daughters, and my son-in-laws, and actually my son, just a very musical family. Lots of giftings there. I'm listening to one of my daughter's songs about 5 years ago that she had written. I'm listening to it for the first time. So as a songwriter, vocalist myself, I'm anticipating where the song's going to go because she wrote the music and the lyrics. And so that's what we do. You know, you're listening and I'm anticipating, is she at the end of this phrase? Is she going to go down or is she going to go up? And the end of the phrase was, and I sing, and she's holding the note out, and she finishes it, to you. And she's talking about the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had a moment because I would have finished that. I sing for you.
Mm.
Wow. And the difference in that I was living to sing for him, like he needed me to sing for him, which he adores it when I sing for him, but way more he wants me to sing to him.
Oh, I love that.
And I'm like, that was it's such a picture of how I was thinking and how she was thinking.
Wow.
So it's like she was already there. She's like, yeah, I'm just singing to him.
I love it. It's like he sees us in the way, when we can start to see ourselves the way that he sees us, and like that, like you don't have to prove, he wants us to sing to him.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Relationship.
That was a game changer.
Yeah.
Game changer for me. So boundaries then, what do you do then? So generational living was another topic we wanted to touch on today.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, families are, even with COVID, a lot of families moved in together. What do you have to say about that with generational living? And you've all done your own work in your life with boundaries. Now what do you do? Mm-hmm. Everybody's living there.
Yeah. It's a thing.
Yeah.
So I was always, and this is my heart is not to, you hear the phrase, you got your 30-year-old living in the basement playing video games. Okay. So I do have a 30-year-old living in the house. And so my old way of thinking was, I don't ever want to be that family. I don't want to ever be that mom that says, I know that you can't do it on your own. So I'm going to allow you to live in my basement and you don't have to get a job. And so that's kind of the thinking that we have in American culture. It's what I had about your adult kids living with you. Yes. It was not
like what they portray.
It was not a good thing. It was not a healthy thing.
Yeah. Yes. Movies.
And it's so true in people's lives. So it's a thing.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to do that. But then this beautiful season came up and it was, this COVID time, and let's hunker down together. And we're all in a situation where we can do that. And so, even now, it's been almost a year, and we have conversations about what is the exit strategy. The whole time we've had conversations about, we love the fact that we're living together. Mm-hmm. We love the fact that we're going to have this unique time of living together that we'll probably never have again. But what it's got to be more than just that. If you're going to live with us and you're adults and you're making money, we're not just going to buy big screen TVs. How many big screen TVs can you have?
Yeah.
I mean, so our kids have just surprised us in a great way. Man, they're getting out of college debt. They're getting out of some work-related debt.
Yeah.
They are positioning themselves whenever a house goes for sale in Michigan again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some of my kids will have money to buy one.
One of them.
Yeah.
We need one.
Yeah. I mean, my daughter and son-in-law were living in a cute little house in Highland, and they wanted to be able to upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
And so to live with us for a certain amount of time while contributing, so there is a lot of boundaries that we have to do. We have to be able to speak the truth in love. They need to be able to do it with us. We need to be able to do it with them.
Yeah.
I need to be able to be honest. I have a kind of indirect temperament.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of want you to read my mind.
Yeah.
I kind of want you to know that this is how I want
What
things
did you
done.
do about that? I bet you made a change.
I have to get honest. I have to, for me, that's the language that I use, because
get honest. Yeah.
and
be okay. That's
be
the
okay.
thing. Every single thing we're talking about today it's rooted in concepts and truths that set us free from, well, obviously the love of God, the love of Jesus, that's our go-to, but the concept of that codependency and that, be able to tell your truth. Next thing I was going to ask you about was, one of your key takeaway points is don't avoid your emotions. Don't repress, because what we repress, we express is somewhere. It's like a Pillsbury dough can, or when we really put our trust in Spanx, those Spanx, they should be called procrastination pants, because it's going to pop out somewhere. Same thing with repression and your emotions and living with your people. But I mean, I know there aren't a lot of people. There's some that the whole family lives together. I think it's cool and it's really unique, but it's such a good metaphor. The people that you love, you're surrounded by them, and you want to live life with them. And now, living with your kids physically is a great metaphor, parallel for the people that you love that are around you. Mm-hmm. And one of the lessons in that is you do not repress, feel your emotions. What do you do then? If you're all secure in your codependent truths where you can express it and be okay.
Yeah, we can a lot better now because of it starts with mom and dad. And I and my husband both we just wanted our kids to be happy.
Yeah.
And, we didn't know the value of pain. So we both wish that if we could go back, we would, I have friends and I know people that, they let their kids fall. And that was a struggle for us. We didn't want our kids to fall. We wanted them to be happy. So I kind of have a fix it. That's my default. There was that TV show, The Closer. Yeah. My show would have been The Fixer.
Yeah. Fixer-upper.
I go in there and fix the situation. Well, I can tell you what to do.
You were the original fixer-upper.
I can tell you what to do. Yeah, I can tell you what to do to fix that situation. And, people don't want to be fixed. And so you
find that out real quick.
Yes. And so, just undoing that with living with the kids has been, a huge help. And understanding, the phrase, we kind of roll our eyes in our house now because we've learned the phrase, you got to heal it. You got to feel it to heal it.
Well, I have a whole page called Reveal to Heal. I mean, you have to reveal.
Right.
You have to get in touch. And I get it.
Yes. Nobody wants to do that. And we did not model that growing up. We could have modeled that better. I'm sure we did. I have to have grace for us. I mean, our kids are doing great, so we did something right. But we could have modeled that better, but we didn't know ourselves how to do that like we do now. Mm-hmm. And so now we can allow ourselves to feel. Yeah. We can allow ourselves to be honest and have, we've had some arguments that, we've had some arguments in the house, but we know how to argue. We know it's okay to not be okay. It's okay that we're working this out. You don't have to agree with me, which in our culture, we've lost that. We've lost the beauty of agreeing to disagree. We're just going to agree to disagree.
No shaming. No shaming in the disagreement. Right.
Yeah. And, there's certain things you're living in my house, so I get to make the call.
Have you? How many have you used that yet?
Not much.
You're living under my roof.
Yeah, not much.
Yeah.
But it really is. The next book that I'm writing is about this season. The death of a church lady, I poured my heart and soul. I edited this thing for like 2 years because it was such a delicate topic. I talk about being hurt by the church and being shunned and an experience with spiritual abuse. And that was so hard for me to talk about. I didn't want that to be my label.
Right.
I don't want to be the poster child for spiritual abuse, but
somebody
needed to talk about it. Yeah. And so,
what did you do? You want to touch on that for a minute and just describe briefly like that, what you felt or not? I mean, I know it's in the book, but I mean, just that it might be relatable.
Yeah. I mean, I was in a situation where we saw unhealthy. Okay. Let me just say this. No church is perfect.
Right.
No pastors are perfect. Nobody's expecting perfection. But there are healthier churches than other churches. There are healthier leaders than other leaders.
Right.
And we were in a wonderful church that we adored. We were there for 24 years, raised our kids there. Lots of great stuff with that church. But in that, we came fresh out of college. And so we were young and gung-ho for Jesus. And, we were just taught as the years went by, that's not your role to do that. Who do you think you are? Kind of needed to dim your light. Don't let your light threaten anybody. So to do a cubbyhole coffee chat on your own.
What? Yeah.
But the church didn't tell you to do that.
Right,
so who do you think you are?
Yeah, exactly.
So that was kind of
starting to take the transition of it's spirit led. That's where you get your.
Yes. I mean, we all can hear from the Lord. And instead of those things being celebrated, I made a CD. I wanted to make a CD for, 6-7 years. And I was embarrassed.
I know.
I liked jazz music, and there's not a lot of jazz Christian music out there. So I thought, and it kept coming back in my spirit. I want to make a CD. I want to make music. But I just knew in the culture that I was in, it was, an abusive culture that, kept people down. And so I knew that it was going to be like, who do you think you are? And why would you, the church can make a CD and you can be on that.
Yeah.
That was just the mentality. And it was just very difficult. And it got, instead of it getting better and better as we all grew and got more mature in the Lord. And it just got more and more unhealthy until finally we were just, squeezed right out. God's like, I'm going to pick you up here and I'm going to put you over here and I'm going to show you what's healthy. And that's not to say that there wasn't so much great stuff that we learned. And I love those people.
I love your work in this though. I love that you have your book. I love that you are able to tell those truths. And it's a lot like, again, the parallel with codependency is to be able to speak your truth, but speak your truth in love. And you've done that. And you've done that. That's why you wanted this. You spent 2 years editing it. I hear you talk about it often, and I know it's rooted in love, and that's just such a perfect example. And that's what you're looking for as well, And but the key is speaking that truth. And the reason I said that is because I'm so glad that you've done this work. Because again, another thread through this show is that that people do feel shame, and they're just maybe believing it because I don't know, it's what you feel you should do. And they don't question it or take a step back and say, what does God want in this? What is my spirit telling me? So,
yeah. Well, and the reason I brought up the book was because I poured my soul into this book, and I wrote one chapter. It's all confessions. I love church. I've been hurt by the church. I'm still in love with my husband. And one of the chapters was I love to laugh. And I was going to have it be my last chapter. And it really talked about our life and people that I knew that, the joy of the Lord is our strength, and a merry heart does good like a medicine. And I'm barking up your tree now.
I mean, a tongue depressor. It says that. Yes.
And just, so in that chapter, I tell funny stories and stories about our family. And when people have read my book, overwhelmingly, people are like, I love the chapter where you talk about your family going out west. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, like all this spiritual wisdom I poured out. Yeah, they're okay. But so that evidently is my thing.
Well, what they're saying, I think, I can't speak for them, but it's like pharmaceutical. Like the medicine gets in, but the delivery system, they're all different. You know, it's a capsule, it's a tablet, and your delivery system is what spoke to their heart. It's what they needed to break that shell, and it went right into where the medicine was.
Yeah. My pharmaceutical husband's loving that analogy.
Oh yeah,
right
well,
now.
yes, that's right. It's funny. I've had these sitting here. I was actually going to mention these last week, and I forgot. And they're sort of sitting here. Such a coincidence that go ahead.
Yeah, what are they?
Well, at the last, you take one with you because it's a bookmark. At the last Cubbyhole event we did here live just a couple weeks ago, I was joking about hospital stuff, and then I made everybody these. Okay, so these are tongue depressors. They're tongue depressors, and I went up, but I was in a hurry because I felt this little nudge to do this, but it had to do it quick, right? So I went out in the garage and I stained all of these. They're just regular tongue depressors, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to print out. Laughter is good medicine, Proverbs 17:22. And so I printed them, and then I watched The Chosen, and I Mod Podged like 60 of these. Okay, see? And then all of a sudden, I left, and I came back hours later, and I went, oh my God, what happened? I was going to redo these because if you look at them, and it's kind of like what we're talking about, the stain came through. And then I looked at it, and in an instant, because you know how God speaks to our spirit, because he is that spirit, I went, there's beauty in that. Every single one has a different stain mark. I'm like, if that isn't all of us, and it's coming right through, and you can see some of them.
The beauty from ashes.
Beauty from ashes, girl, or stain. Yes, stain,
stain,
whatever.
ashes,
Yeah, all of it. Beauty from ashes. And
It just got really high there.
What? I know. I talk about wood stain in this Cubbyhole when we do a show. I'm always talking about It needs to have a well, probably does, but I don't have glasses strong enough to read the label that says ventilate. Okay. I usually think you're down here going, why am I listening to Pink Floyd all of a sudden? I don't even know. The fumes. Why am I playing hacky sack by myself? I don't even know. Okay. I'm eating a Nacho Bel Grande. Anyway, so they all have a different stain. And you know what? Some of them were completely covered in stain. Like just covered. And so that's us. And that's what you're saying though, is laughter is good medicine. So somebody that has all these stains on their heart and all over them, the thing that you touched them with was the laughter to get in, just to start, with the laughter being good medicine.
Yeah.
To
Well,
pierce their
so
heart.
that's the next book. Is I'm just embracing what I do and just sharing the stories from living this Walton's Goodnight John Boy.
Yeah.
What is it? 3 generations, 2 son-in-laws, 2.5 babies, a dog, and one else.
Oh no,
and
I
COVID.
wrote it down. And COVID.
Yeah.
I wrote it down. I loved it when you said that. As we wrap up, oh my gosh, there's so many more. There's so many things I could talk to you about, and we get to go. We get to go hang out for a little while, so we get to talk a little more. I get to just take in more and more of this woman and her wisdom and our friendship. I'm so excited. But you talk about a phrase that I think is really, really relatable about inside out living versus outside in.
I do.
Remember when you said that?
Yeah, I did say that.
Remember
That one. Remember that one time?
Remember that one time?
Well, I think really what we've been talking about is that concept. It's when we are living from an outside in perspective, we are trying to get people to like us so we'll feel a certain way. We worship Jesus so he'll be honored and then we'll be pleasing to him. Mm-hmm. We do these things with great intentions and a great heart to make ourselves acceptable, make ourselves feel loved. Where what the tweak for me that God wants to do is he wants to speak to our heart. He wants to speak to our identity. Mm-hmm. He wants to get to the root of whatever issue it is that we're dealing with, the lie that we've believed,
right?
The unhealthy family we grew up in that makes us think about things a certain way. He just wants to get to that so that he can work on our heart, work on our spirit, and then all of the worship is an overflow. We're not doing it to get anything. We're doing it because of the relationship that we have with the Father. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The things that we do for people, we are no longer doing them to get approval, to gain acceptance. we do them as a fruit of the love of God that is overflowing from
Yes.
us. And I think, a lot of our lives, we did that. We weren't all outside in. It's not 100%. But for me, it's like you focus on Jesus, you pursue the Lord, you allow him to speak truth and life about who you are, about what you believe. And everything outside will be affected by that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an overflow, as opposed to, it's like dealing with a teenager with boundaries, or talking to somebody about boundaries alone.
Yeah.
You can't talk to somebody
You need a
about
whole-
boundaries until you've talked to them about their identity.
Identity, yes.
Because if you don't know who you are,
that's
then
so true.
then it's just a rule.
Ooh.
But if you know who you are, now I'm bringing my whole self, and I'm going to allow you to bring your whole self.
Yeah.
And I'm okay if you don't do it.
Yeah.
Because you got to be able to enforce a boundary.
I literally use buckets when I talk, to any group, but I'm excited to talk to a group of kids coming up, and I've got these 2 buckets, and one says truth, and one says true, and one says false. And it's because we become investigators, and we start walking around collecting all this evidence about who the world says we are, and who we say we are, and just putting that truth in. But it's all, that's why I am so passionate on the show, and everything else is about our story. I used to think I can't niche it down to just talk about our stories. I won't have anything to talk about. I'm like, what? It just explodes with opportunity. That's it. Stories. That's my word. Yeah. And I know for you too, and you're counseling, and you're trying to get to the root of people and their stories. But what you're saying is so rich and wise, is that we can't please other people if we don't know who we are. Mm-hmm. We're creating a boundary, but what are we creating the boundary around? It's knowing who we are, and it's beyond powerful. But it's knowing who we are and who God says we are. I just wrote a phrase the other day about a little girl saying, "What's your name?" And I thought about God giving us that answer.
Mm-hmm.
Who we are is the way that God defines us, and that's our first identity. Mm-hmm. I love what you're saying about that. I love that. I really love that. Oh, I know what I was going to go with that. Today on Barn 45, today is Tara Olette's birthday.
Happy birthday, girl!
Happy birthday, dear Tara. Clink. Happy birthday to you. So today they were talking to Jamie Winship, who she loves, and he was telling a beautiful story. I don't want to give it away, but if you go on to Barn 45 and watch that today, teary-eyed. I got choked up because I know you did too. Like, just thinking about,
I was bawling.
I don't want to give it away, but just the concept of changing what would seem like the least likeliest person, to receive a shift. Mm-hmm. That the person needed truth, and it wasn't about being condemned. It was about being identified as to who they really, mm-hmm. really are. And it's that person, that story that Jamie was talking about, just reminds me of all of us. We condemn ourselves, we condemn others because we don't really know the truth mm-hmm. about who we are. Therefore, we can't have mm-hmm. healthy boundaries.
Well, and we don't see the beauty in our story because we want our story to be perfect. And that's the beauty of the stories, is that he never wastes a thing. I wouldn't go back and, I don't regret what happened to me in the way that I left the church and what happened, because it brought me to my knees and God used it. And so, I've heard people that have said too, I battled cancer and I went through chemotherapy and this kind of thing. And if, what God did in that season, we had a season of unemployment where my husband was unemployed and we wouldn't go back and change it because, man, we had Jesus in our kitchen one day. And I don't know that would have happened if we hadn't have been desperate and together and seeking him. And, so, he uses our stories and he doesn't waste a thing.
Mm-hmm. No, nothing is wasted. And
he
that's the
all
beauty.
Things together for good for those who love him.
And that's why the ripple effect means even more, because you see, even in the ugliest times, the most painful times and the beautiful times, you see it does all work together for good. You mentioned that you talk a lot about being a peacekeeper versus a peace maker. Mm-hmm. How does that show up how would you explain?
Well, what we did a lot in our home when the kids were growing up is we were peacekeepers. Mm-hmm. Right. So just keep the peace. Don't talk about the elephant in the room necessarily.
Right,
didn't know how to do that. It's difficult to go to the heart if you're keeping the peace. A peacemaker knows the value of the fight.
Ooh,
Knows the value of the conflict.
Yes.
So let's get in and knock it out, and let's figure this thing out.
Yeah, we're going to learn something here. Yeah.
Because on the other side, we know it from experience that our relationship now is going to be deeper because we have an understanding. We've been through this conflict together, and so a peacekeeper isn't going to deal with stuff. They're not going to be able to be honest, and it's a false sense of joy. It's a false sense of happiness.
Yep.
And when you're a peacemaker, and you're gonna have to have the hard word, the hard talk, the deal with thing, whatever the thing is, but it's going to make peace and joy.
So the whole concept today was, if you need change, if you know you need change, and whose theory was it? Who said it? That if we keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, is that Einstein? It's
one of those smart guys.
Yeah, I'll look it up. I'll put it in there. I don't want to not give credit where credit is due, but yeah, when you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that is the definition of insanity. And it has to start with us. Like you said, if we're doing the same things over and over again, seeing life in the same way. And as we close up, I'd love to give just a few takeaways, wrapping this whole beautiful conversation. I'm not going to put that on you. We can do it together, but just whatever pops in our mind about, recapping what we talked about, I'll start, is recognizing just what you just said. I forget how you worded it, but putting a value on the fight. Is that what you said? But recognizing just in your spirit, something's up. And I always say, if you feel you're so laser focused in, you're so close. I was like that this week. I did it again. I'm a coach. And I said to David, okay, I had to pull back and look at my life as a landscape, look at everything. So give yourself a break. If you're feeling like you need change, or you're feeling angsty, or something's wrong, and you're just frustrated by everything, just pull back and give yourself a break and let that, what you may or may not know of the Holy Spirit, maybe you don't, maybe you're like, what is she talking about? Just let that peace seep in and put a value on what you're feeling, and knowing that the change can come. What would be something else that would you say is another next step in embracing change with the goal of going toward greater healing and freedom in our life?
I would say, and I love this, Jamie Winship said it this morning, that God's not mad at you.
Yeah, that's
God
huge.
is not mad at you.
That's huge.
He loves you. He understands. He is waiting. So, and even though you can come alongside a friend and they can help you unwind something.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the first place I go is to the Lord, and He is ready and willing and waiting to always speak to my heart about what the truth is, about what He says about, what do you say about this?
Yeah.
God, what is your perspective on it? Give me eyes to see this person like you see them. And I can go to Him quickly, readily, again and again and again and again and again, because I know He loves me. I know He's good. I am never bothering Him. He's, He's just so good and loves us so much. And I think a lot of times we don't want to bother Him, and we think He's mad. And He's a good God. He's a good Father. He sees you. He loves you. He is ready and waiting to answer your call. So
much truth in that. So powerful. I just love the sense of hope and inspiration that comes from these conversations, because we can feel so lost and alone. Yep. The next thing that popped in my head was seek wise counsel. I mean, if you're willing to trust and free fall with a backpack of faith, then put your trust in God, in Jesus. And if that isn't you, then God loves us right where we are. But seeking wise counsel, and there are beautiful people in our world, like Stephanie Tucker. We both love to impart wisdom, if anything that we can, on people's lives. Or Barn 45, seek wise counsel and understand that it's all part of the ripple effect of goodness leading to change. Is there anything that you'd like to say or any other thoughts on the hows? Just trust the process, I would say.
Yeah.
And and just trust your true identity. And you know what? Love you with your identity even when it's messy. And that's what you were talking about.
Yep.
Love yourself even when it's messy. I have to share this. Talk about just joy.
I'm cracking up. I'm like, what are you going to do with that?
Totally. Let me think if I can think of an analogy. Things that really make your heart, like the love of Jesus and the way that he pierces your heart in such a beautiful way. It shows up in everyday situations. Okay. The cubbyhole here has a very special piece of nostalgia because of you, because this girl knows. I think do you have the same affinity?
Yeah.
Okay. We had the same affinity for a heartthrob when we were growing up, and she knew
still,
this.
I mean,
David knows.
He's aging well.
Okay, I'm going to show you who we're talking about. Try to guess. What heartthrob do you think we're talking about from the what?
70s.
Yeah, 70s. David knows. He knows. Like, my mother-in-law knows this about me so much that she bought us tickets for our anniversary to go see him. Who do you guys
Mike
think we're talking about?
Mike took me, so
Yeah.
he knows.
He knows. Maybe we'll sing a song.
Has anybody guessing?
Guess. Try to guess. What heartthrob do you think we're talking about? If nobody guesses, I'm just going to say this. Sing it, girl. And they call it puppy love. Oh, girl, yes. So Teri was cleaning. Thank you, Jesus. She was cleaning her basement. And she gave this to me, because if you ever come here live in the cubby hole, it's decorated with all kinds of nostalgia that just will warm your heart. So she gave this to me. And it says, "Go away, little girl." Okay, there's a metaphor. You know, those versions of us that we're pulling our, say goodbye to that little girl and getting the truth of Jesus. But yes, sing it.
That's all you got.
She is a powerful singer. Oh my gosh. So thank you for that. It's actually on stage. It's over there on a clipboard. Thank you for my gift.
You're welcome.
I can't believe you gave that away. I feel honored. I feel so special.
Everybody in my house just want me to get rid of my stuff, so they're happy you took it.
Literally and figuratively.
You had a place to put it, though. That's good.
Yes, it goes right there on the stage. So getting rid of our stuff, even all the nostalgia. The concept today was changed. Thank you so much for everything.
My
you
pleasure.
Brought. See, I love this lady.
An honor to be here.
So full of wisdom, and I love our relationship. So that is all we have today, unless you have anything else.
That's it.
Okay. So until next week, I hope, and more importantly, we pray that you have a beautiful, rich week filled with forgiveness and understanding for yourself and those around you. Okay, we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everybody.